Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's live stream. Welcome to today's Traders Mind Chat show. We've got some really great stuff to talk about today. Basically, answering a very important question that so many of you struggle with. I know because I've struggled with it with this question for years. A question is like, well, when you have multiple good trades setting up, right? And the market's been setting up now for past couple of weeks, and we've seen a lot of really great setups. Have you struggled with the question of which setup should you take? Right? Have you struggled with that question? If you have, go ahead, type it into the chat. And while you're at it, type in. Let me know where you're from, where you're watching this. We are streaming to Twitter, to YouTube, to Share Vision, to Facebook. Right? Can't forget Facebook. But wherever you are watching this, make sure that you like the stream. That helps push it out to a lot of people, and also make sure that you subscribe to the channel wherever you are watching this. But we will answer the question of which trade should you take. Again, this is something that I struggled with for a very long time too, and so I was looking for different solutions. And at the time, the solutions were like build a checklist, right? Like that. That's what most people do. That just build a very simple checklist of like, okay, I want a stock to have, or really any trade that you're going to take that. Whether you're trading forex or crypto or options or whatever, to have some kind of a checklist that, okay, I want this trade to have X, Y, and Z. Now, let me know if you've encountered this question, but often, like a checklist just isn't good enough, right? Like, sometimes you'll run into the problem of like, okay, well, I stocks A and B or trades A and B both have the same number of boxes checked. Or you might say, well, you know what? This first box isn't quite as important as the second box, or vice versa. And you have different weights for different things that you're considering, or some combination thereof makes something greater weight than something else. Have you ever encountered this? Have you ever thought through that kind of thing, or is it just me? Am I the crazy one in the room with the camera and the microphone? But seriously though, let me know if you've encountered anything like this. Go ahead, type it into the chat. Um, I have, and it's the reason why I put together this tool called the Trade Gauntlet. And so the idea of it is that whatever trade we're going to take. So if you've been on a few of our live streams already, you're kind of familiar with the process that I like to run, where I'm going wide first, right? Like kind of figuring out what stocks are out there in the universe. And by the way, let me know if you are doing a similar process. Type it into the chat where you're starting out with the stocks that are out there. You run a bunch of screens, you get a smaller list, then you go through that list and you start to say, well, what stocks are setting up. And then from there, and you have your handful of stocks that are setting up. Those are the ones that you are trying to figure out, well, which one is it that I really want to take, or which ones do I really want to take? So that's where the gauntlet comes in. So in this live stream, I'd like to show you the full process and rationale behind the trade gauntlet. I've created an app around this, but I want to show you how you could do this for free in Google Sheets. Right, like it'll take you a little bit of time to build it out, but you can build something like this out in Google Sheets and customize it. But by now, if you've been on any of these live streams the past few days, you know that I'm a big fan of Google Sheets and customizations and all that kind of stuff. So also, let me know if there's any questions that you guys have as we're going through this. Just go ahead, type it into the chat, and we'll answer questions on the fly. And at the very end of the live stream, depending on how much time we have left, we'll do a wide open Q&A, whatever questions you have. All right, so let's get started. So let me share my screen. Okay, so first step is to actually pull up the gauntlet. So I'm just going to log into marawealth.com, click log in, and get over here to the elite membership and get to the Trade Gauntlet. So come over here and you can see that there's a lot of different fields in here. Kind of similar to, well, at least this top part is a little bit similar to the position size calculator. If you were on the live stream a couple of days back, we spoke about position sizing and we did a position size calculator, and that tool is free. This has part of that in here, but it's a little bit different. So let me explain. So this top part, you fill in the ticker, your entry, exit, your target price. Actually, why don't we just walk through an example together? That might be even better. So let's talk about Upstart. Upstart's been spoken about a lot in the Twitterverse lately. If you've been following along with things, let's look at Upstart. I actually have a position in Upstart that I started about a week and change ago. Bought it out of this little shelf area right here where it broke a descending trend line, and it was one of the potential leaders that were setting up. Saw it as a pattern that you might know as a high tight flag. But anyway, so what I would do then is to take this gauntlet and put in the ticker. My entry price I had entered just above here, right? So say 323.70. Right, so put in the entry price 323.70, put in the stop loss. Stop on this one would have been at about 303.90. Oops. 303.90, and then the target was about 450. And you can see how it starts to populate some of the other fields down here already, right? Like you have your dollar risk per share, the percentage risk on this idea, the total profit that you would get per share, the profit and percentage, and the reward to risk. So this is a potential 3-to-1 or 6-to-1 rather reward to risk if entering here and it actually gets to the 450 target. 6-to-1. That's pretty good. So the idea of the gauntlet or the rest of the gauntlet, like the checklist part, is to think through all of the different things that you find important in a trade. And so I laid out everything that was important to me in this gauntlet so that way I could go and see just how much of each trade matches the things that I find important. Find how closely a particular trade matches my personal beliefs about trading, right? And it kind of makes sense. The more that a trade matches your beliefs or your system, the higher it should score, right? And the more interested in it we should be. So this helps us to make sure that we're trading in alignment with our beliefs, with our system. So first box up here, gut feeling. Like I think that your gut feel is something that is very important to cultivate and train over time. Uh, the reason why is because it's not just like an emotional feeling, like it often gets confused with that. What I think of gut feel is your experience speaking to you, like like how your intuition, when you just look at something and it's almost like you've seen it before, like that's your experience speaking to you. So we want to cultivate that and begin to train it over time so that way your gut feel gets better and better. But we don't want it to just rely on that one thing. So for me on Upstart, my gut feel was a 5. uh so check that box. And then next, actually do this. I'm using another tool in here. This tool is MarketSmith, by the way. You might have noticed that by the little uh, logo up there in the corner. You don't necessarily have to have MarketSmith. I just like it. I use it as a screening tool, and also it gives me a lot of the fundamental data that I like very conveniently in this box over here. So continue running this trade idea through the gauntlet. So annual earnings projections, 871. Great, checks that box. ROE, 17 or better. It's only 9%, so we can't check that. All of these here, right? So let me talk you through a little bit of this. This is the fundamental criteria that I'm interested in. So I follow an acronym that you might have noticed right over here, EAGLE. Right. So what in the heck is EAGLE? Well, if you're familiar with another acronym, CAN SLIM, that Bill O'Neill made popular in his book, How to Make Money in Stocks, it's similar to that. O'Neill has had a huge influence on me over the years. In fact, I was an Investors Business Daily meetup leader for about a decade. So really got finally like entrenched in the whole Can Slim universe. Well, what I ended up doing, well, was thinking through a couple of different things and trying to make it more fit my style, fit my personality. And so what EAGLE is, it's another acronym. It stands for extraordinary, right? So E for extraordinary, earnings, sales, and or projections. The reason why it's one of those and not all of them, like what Cancel asked for, is because I want the ability to be able to be in biotechs or stocks that don't have any earnings yet, or have great earnings and don't have the sales, or they don't have any earnings or sales but the projections are completely off the charts. I want to be able to be in those kind of opportunities. So that's why it's one of them at least. But if they have all of them, obviously it's even better. So that's the E in Eagle. And so I'm going through that. Didn't have the EPS growth rate, didn't have the earning stability, but it doesn't have EPS plus 25% the last 3 quarters. It's right over here. No, it's had fantastic the last 2, but not for the last 3. Sales plus 25% for the last 3 quarters. It does have that. See, so this is where it starts to, you're checking off the boxes, and in the back end of this, each one of these is assigned a different weight. So um yeah, well, like not everything is created equally. So just because you check off 5 boxes for one and 6 boxes for another, it doesn't automatically make the one with 6 boxes the better trade idea. That's the kind of the rationale and thought process behind the gauntlet and behind having a weighted average checklist for your trades. It's super, super helpful for you to do this with your trading. Um, for both of them, right? So accelerating earnings, accelerating sales for the last 2 quarters, yes to both. So check that off. The EPS rating, top 3 versus its peers. So 65. No, we have 3 of them in the 90s there, so can't check that box. SMR rating, top 3 versus peers. Well, the SMR rating is an A, so that's the highest that it could be. So yes, we'll check that. If anything, it's a tie. Then we come through here, and now it's time to look at the stage of the base. Um, when I'm looking at the stage of the base, I actually did, since I'm holding this, let me see what it was over here. So I actually entered this twice. Yeah, the first one was down at 313. That actually was started to tell you about the second add-on, the uh, which was this one over here, the 324. So this was a stage 2 high type flag. So check off that stage 2. And then what I would do is go through the pattern itself to see uh, how good of a pattern it is. Does it have the right depth, right? So for high type flag, the pole part of it should be about 100% move. Like it could be a little bit less, it could be a little bit more, but somewhere in that range of 100% move over 8 weeks. And then the flag part should be about like no more than 5 weeks. It could be less. Like in this case here, you see that it's only 3 weeks. And it should be no more than about 20 to 25% deep. It met all of that. And it did have a prior run in here of more than 20% before that. Uh, Absolutely more up weeks than down weeks in the base. Has more accumulation than distribution in the base. The way that you tell that, and by the way, too, there's a little bit of delay in the comments that by the time I ask for you to for a question or for you to type something in. So as you have questions, go ahead, type them in, and I'm checking the comments here. But to give you a little bit of insight into what in the heck counts as a accumulation week versus a distribution week. What counts as accumulation is when it's an up week on heavier volume than the week before it, and distribution is a down week on heavier volume than the week before it. Now there's several nuances around there too, like where does it close in its trading range? We won't be able to get into all that, but that's the very subtle basics of beginning to understand accumulation and distribution. This is all stuff that we review in depth each weekend, or the types of things we review in depth each weekend with the Mara Elite members, and we have a full archive of training videos. So go check those out. Um, Let's see. So 70% up weeks within the base, 70% up weeks leading up to the base. Doesn't really have that in this prior cup formation. So not going to check that box. Uh, Good shape to the setup. Yeah, it's um, tight and controlled. Right, like you don't see the bars themselves being wide and loose in here. It's a pretty straight up move, and then each of the bars are within themselves in this area here. So that's what I would consider a good shape to the setup. Volatility contraction. Let's take a look at daily for that. Yes, I would have counted that as volatility contraction. So you have this pullback, then volatility picks up as it spikes down. But before over here, before it blasts off again, it tightens up a lot right in there relative to itself. So yeah, volatility contraction. Yes, it was formed. In fact, it was entirely formed above the 10-week line. Tightening controlled action, yes. And fractal patterns is counted as multiple types of things. Nah, I'll be conservative. I don't want to give it that. Um, for the target, for the sake of time, I believe we checked off those two. Actually, I believe I have it up in TradingView over here. Yes, I do. All right. So, yes, it was right at the target that you could see here, right? So there's a couple of different patterns in here. The target is right there, right at the Fibonacci 2618 level. very close to that. So I'll check off this box. So what we're doing over here, right, for the chart pattern. Oh, and for the A in Eagle, the A stands for aiming for high probability, high reward to low risk setups. So, well, we're analyzing the base in this part, and then down here we are finding different levels of confluence for the target, for the support level, and for the entry. The more levels of confluence that you have around each of these, the better. Uh, Gives a lot more confidence in those levels actually working out. So over here for the stop loss, and the stop loss started out down here. At the time, it had 5, 10, and 21 EMAs. It also had Fibonacci support right around there. And it had the daily and weekly price structure. Not bad at all. And then similarly, with the entry, it was the entry at the daily price structure, and it was also true on the weekly time frame. Let me pop out over here to the weekly, and it was getting above that week's high right there. Again, we're talking about the add-on buy that I did. You might even say that there was a trend line there too. Short trend line, a bit more visible on the daily. Then the G is for game changers. G is for growth. So for Upstart, is it a growing industry, growing products? Does the story make sense? Yes, absolutely. Then for the fund ownership, let's get MarketSmith back over here. Right. So for fund ownership, here's what I look at. I look at increasing fund ownership for the last 2 quarters. So this quarter versus that quarter versus that quarter. Yep. It's been increasing quarter over quarter over quarter. Perfect. And the fund ownership is definitely up 20% or more from last year. It's up about 4 times since last year. Now that's outstanding. The reason why something like that becomes so important when you're trading, when you're swing trading, or if you're doing a intermediate, or really for growth investing in general, is because it, it's it it takes a long time for these major institutions of the world, the hedge funds, mutual funds, pension funds, all of these different funds here. They don't just buy a position in one shot like you and I can. They'll do it over several weeks, several months. So when you see the number of funds increasing quarter over quarter over quarter, then that means that there's a lot more demand coming into this stock, and that there, while you will see some volatility, uh, you'll eh, you'll see demand developing over time. Next up, management. Management owns 10% or more of the company. They own 25%. So great, I'll check that box. That's important because the management is more likely to be aligned with the shareholders. Not only that, for a recent IPO, definitely love seeing management own a significant portion of the company. Several setups within the same group. Yeah, at the time that there were several. Like more when I'm looking at the group, I'm not if it's within the same exact group, like per MarketSmith, right? So the third group, this finance consumer loans, uh, great. What I'm looking more at is the same sector. So if there's several in the same sector, I'll check that box. If it's within the same actual industry group, then even better. Then down here, the L in Eagle, the leader. Is this in a leading group? Is it a leader within its group? Is it a leader in the market? So I'm checking all that stuff. Does it have all these qualities? So it's in one of the top groups, right? 1 through 10, number 3, fantastic, is the relative strength hitting fresh highs. Yes, at the time it was. So checked off that. The relative strength slope greater than 45 degrees and for the past 8 weeks or more prior to the base. Yeah, it was almost a vertical line back here. Um, Leader among its peers. Yeah, it's a leader among its peers, leader in the market. And while it was over here, it was moving sideways, and so was the market. And it is an IPO within the past 12 months. So generates a score of 8.56, an extremely high score. And so it was that it's that high score that, number one, influenced me to take this trade. And number two, influenced me even more to not just do my initial buy, right? If you recall, the initial buy is was down here, right? Like that's where the initial buy was. But then a few days later to add to it again right here. And you can see that Upstart's it had this run, so I sold a bit into strength, and now it's pulling back. If it sets up again, I'll add even more back to this trade and keep on. It's called trading around a core position. It's a great way to really leverage up on some of your ideas that are really working, especially one like this that's a true market leader. So let's see. What else? What else? What else? Um, yeah, so we got this. And we got it to 8.5, 8.56. So let me show you how to build this, right? Like this gauntlet. And again, that this gauntlet is part of the Mara Elite program. So all of our elite members get this, they use it, and it's a fantastic tool. I'm going to show you how you can build this in Google Sheets if you feel inclined. All right. So Google Sheets, I have not used. I initially built this out in Google Sheets a while ago. You can see the last time that was used was actually back in November of last year. Uh, yeah, since then I've been using the one that I just showed you. But anyhow, um, you would open up a Google Sheets, and there's a few things that you would want to do, right? Like it doesn't have to look as fancy as this up here. I like uh, aesthetics, and so if I'm going to be working with a tool consistently, like I want it to look nice. But just to give you the basics, what you would want to do is to come up with first thing is to I would probably start by writing it out on paper, like all the different things that I like in a trade, right? So write out all the different things that you like in a trade or that you would want to see in an ideal scenario. Like ideal stock has everything they could possibly want. Write it all out. Once you do that, then go through that list and start to assign weights to them. I like to use a score out of 10, right? Like that. That's what you saw with the gauntlet that was up here earlier, right? Well, you got to see it was out of 10. So 8.5 is 6 out of a possible score of 10. If you want to make it out of 100, then go for it. But I like to use a round number and then from there figure out how much each uh, each thing should be valued on your list. So, how much weight do you want to give to each thing? Maybe you're looking at earnings, maybe you're looking at sales, maybe you're looking at different technicals than I am. Maybe you're looking at things like Keltner channels or MACD or well, whatever it is. Um, Write all those things down, and then you can assign weights to each one of those things. So once you have that, then you could start to put it into a Google Sheet or put it into to Excel. I actually like Google Sheets a little bit better, but you could put in your criteria. Then you can add a box, right? So you could just let me see how did I do this? I think you could just come up here, yeah, insert, and then where is it? There was a little, oh yeah, right there, checkbox. So you could just insert the checkbox, and then when you have the checkbox, uh, your next step would be to type in what value you want. So in this case, for annual earnings, it's getting a value of 0.2. And then over here, you could see the formula up here, right? Does everybody see that formula? Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger if that helps. That actually did not help right there. But I'll tell you what the formula says. The formula says it's equals if, and then F19. So it's looking at the checkbox. So equals the wherever you put the checkbox, and then have that equals true. Then it's looking back at this value, right? And it would sign it. And if not, then it's looking at a blank square, right? So when it's toggled on, it's looking here. When it's toggled off, just have it look at a blank cell, and then do that straight down the line. And then when you get to the bottom, right, like you could, if you're breaking it out like me in different sections, right? Like, so let's say you have your fundamental sections in one area, then you could do a subtotal. Your chart stuff, you could have a subtotal for that, and then go down the line, or you could just have a summation down at the bottom and get your score that way. All right, so that is how you build a gauntlet for your trades, and this is something that's been extremely helpful. When I look at the trades that I have open right now, right? Like there is eight. How many trades do I have open? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 trades open in total, and uh, 7 out of 8 are winners right now, and the average gauntlet score is about like a 7 and change, right? Like there's only one trade that is under a 7, which is this one right here, right? 6.87. Well, which is still a pretty decent score. Well, which is why I opted to take that trade. But more importantly than the score itself, too, is generating awareness around uh, how closely does this trade match your beliefs. And if you do decide to take a trade that is outside of your beliefs, and this will tell you how closely it aligns versus not, then something else that you could do, and this is a little bit advanced, is to begin to adjust your position size. So lots and lots of applications to the Trade Gauntlet, how you could use it, the convenience of it. Showed you how to make one for for yourself. If you want to use this one that's already pre-made, and it's going to record all of the stuff that you filled out, and you could email it to yourself too. So that way you could always have like a running total. In fact, I think I'll email this one to myself, and then you could see what happens. So, what it's doing now, it's taking all this data, and it just sent it to me, right? And then it reset the gauntlet. So now I've got an email in my inbox. It sends it to you immediately with everything that you filled out, and now you get to use this again, right? So it makes it a lot more convenient than having it just in a spreadsheet. So if you're interested, if you want to, well, it's part of the elite program. So again, go check out the elite program. There's a lot of really great, uh, really great services and great benefits to being a member. All that said, opening up the last couple of minutes that we have here, we're already a little bit over time. But if you have any questions about anything that we said at all, go ahead, type it into the chat. If you have questions uh, on something else that is trading related, go ahead, type those into the chat as well, and we'll answer them here live. In the meantime, while you are typing away, I'll take a quick sip of water. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? What do you guys have? What questions do you guys have? By the way, if you're not already following on Twitter or Stock Twits or what else do we have here? Instagram. Go follow on each of those places. It's the same handle, Michael G. Lamont on Twitter, Instagram, and StockTwits. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel wherever it is that you happen to be watching it. That way, this gets blasted out to even more people, and you get notified when we're doing these live streams. Um, Tomorrow's live stream, tomorrow we're going to be talking about volume and the different ways that volume can help you gauge which way price is getting ready to move. Is it getting ready to move up, down, sideways? What in the heck is the story with the stocks or whatever trade it is that you're looking at? Volume is a huge clue, and that is going to be a part of tomorrow's live stream. All right, everybody. That's all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me on today's live stream, and I'll see you back here again tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Much love. Peace out.